nice to finally meet you. Can't wait to tell you about the things I've been through. 18 years, I was walking by myself. Ain't no fucking way that could be good for my health. Skeletons go deep. Been living in my closet. Fear of the unknown cause a nigga to be modest. I'm just being honest. It's hard to face the facts that I've been living all this time, not knowing what it mean to be black. Grew up, ain't have no father, just my mother. Her and Graham's the only ones at supper. So many fucking questions, things to discover. Why these white kids always questioning my color? Start to make me wonder, who the hell am I? Why they got me feeling like my brown skin is my demise? You can see it in my eyes, confusion run deep. Start to lose trust, can't tell a wolf from a sheep. Inside the tears leak, can't show it on the surface. Was just a little kid trying to understand his purpose. Tears turned to rage, on fear I turned the page. Smoked my first L, now I'm coping with the haze. Why the value of my life under appraise? Just cause my skin dark. Why the 5 o'clock news only show niggas in chalk? Why I can't just be myself? Always gotta play the part like, boy, you black, you ain't supposed to be smart. Nigga, dead black man, it's nice to finally meet you. Can't wait to tell you about the things I've been through. 18 years, I was walking by myself. Ain't no fucking way that could be good for my health. Skeletons go deep. Been living in my closet. Fear of the unknown cause a nigga to be modest. I'm just being honest. It's hard to face the facts that I've been living all this time, not knowing what it mean to be black.
Let's get this show on the road. So, first of all, thank you everybody for coming. When Whakim and I sat down and started coming up with ideas to, market the music video, I never envisioned something like this. So it's really dope. It's humbling to see what it's done and how many people have been positively affected, how many people have reached out and applauded the interviews from mine to Divine's to Jesse's, Michelle's, whoever's. Everybody's had something positive to say. I'm sure there's people out there who have negative things to say as well. But when we started this is never what I saw, like I said. But I think that's just a testament to how powerful and important that these conversations are. So I guess let's start and just have everybody introduce themselves. We got mics, brother.
I need a mic. Jesse Turner from Olean, New York. I'm 44 and UPS driver.
Ken Wright from Olean, New York. I'm 56. I think I'm the oldest one here, and I'm retired.
Jason Clemons. I'm not going to tell my age. My hairline already does. But I'm from Olean, business owner.
Jason's a vamp. He does not look his age. Just want to put that out there. What's good? I'm Whakim Lumpkins. Me and Vernon, I think, are the only ones that actually aren't from Olean. Oh, Devine. Oh, yeah, Divine's from Rochester. Yeah. But I'm the creative director behind it, so thank you. It's been amazing.
Ryan Carney. I am the executive producer of the Dear Black Man Docuseries.
J.R. Kemp, I'm from Olean.
Michelle Robinson, kindergarten teacher, I'm from Olean.
Vernon Robinson, I'm from Washington, D.C., and I'm the alderman in this city.
Devine Leacock, and I'm from Rochester, New York.
All right, yeah, thank you. So we just kind of wanted to start off by having everyone kind of give their synopsis of some of the feedback they got and how they felt about watching their interview. Because I know for the most part, it was months after the interviews before they came out. So who wants to go first?
I'll go. So when I was asked by Ryan to do a part in this docuseries, I had no expectations. I knew that I was going to be interviewed and just tell part of my story. And I think Whakim and Ryan will attest that we opened up a lot of dialogue that needed to be opened that we never talked about before, because a lot of times we hide our emotions. We gotta man up and buck up and act as if we're not affected by a lot of these things, but it keeps getting worse. So I think that opened up a lot of dialogue that we needed to share. And I came straight from work to the interview, just like Jesse. I wasn't on lunch break, but But I came straight from work and had nothing prepared, and I was prepared for everything. So I think it's a testament to who we are, and we just, these are our voices. And I think these guys captured it the best they could, and it was just giving us our moment. So,
what was some of the feedback you got?
Most of the feedback that I got was positive. I know that people acted as if, wow, I never knew. I didn't know. I said, well, it's not your right to know everything that I hide. So I wanted to make sure that people knew my story, and it was just one part of the story.
Nice.
When I first got asked, I was honored that Ryan actually even chose me to be on this with everyone. To me, it was very enlightening, I guess, too, because I wasn't really sure where it was going to go. And then as more people got involved, it was like, wow, you listen to Jason's story and Jesse's story and everybody's like, we all have a common thing growing up here, but the only differences that we have are we don't tell everybody what's going on. So I got a lot of feedback from people from Ohio that I played football with in college, my family all over the country. It was really strange. People came up to me even that I didn't even know would even thought that would watch it, and came up to me and said, oh, I saw that. It was great. It was good. And as Whakim and I talked about, I didn't even think I talked very well. So I was like, well, I didn't think I did a very good job at it, but a lot of people came up and said, thank you.
I think, Ryan, my interview was first.
Yeah, so originally it was supposed to just be you and JR.
Yeah.
And then it obviously turned into
after
this.
After we interviewed Jesse, it was over. Because we interviewed you first, too.
Yeah. So I thought it was going to be a video, and I thought you were going to take little snippets of what I was going to say. I probably would have cursed less.
Yeah, me too.
But again, me and Ryan have had these conversations a lot since we kind of since probably college, his senior year, or no, junior, sophomore year in college. And my feedback was definitely positive. I also got feedback from family, which is interesting. I'll make sure that I bring that up, because I think in my interview, I think I did one of the cardinal sins of what we kind of do as all Black people, and I think I'm probably at the top of the list of it, is we always try to judge each other's Black experience and try to say this person's Black or this person's not Black. And I got feedback from my cousin in China. She hit me with the text message. So with that being shared, I always wanted to make sure that I have to step back and be like, everybody's Black experience, whether we think it's this or that, is a Black experience in America. What road you take is irrelevant, and who you think is the right path or Blackest path or least or this, it's still a Black experience. And that's true. That's our common core for all of us. Like we're in this country experience being Black.
I think it's big of you to even acknowledge that too, by the way. So I'm proud of you for that. That shows growth.
Since I got the mic, I think I was one of the anomalies. I wasn't expected to be a part of the panel or anything. I came up to come check on Michelle because she was interviewing. I was, the timeline. I was ready to eat.
Yeah, we were taking too long.
We're used to eating together. So I was like, "What's going on?" So I drove up, and I got there, and next thing you know, I'm doing the interview, and then just so happens the day that I'm doing the interview, I was just in one of those moods. Like I said, naturally I'm an introvert, but that day I just came out. Everything was just spilling, and I just got to a point where I felt like, that I'm just going to say everything. I'm just going to share with everybody, what's going on since I've been here, what I've seen, what I've experienced, and the good and the bad. There is some good here, but the bad always outweighs it because it lays heavier on your heart, and you try to do right by people, try to do good things in the community, but just sometimes you feel weighed down just by the experiences and things that just seem to pull you down because you can't get those stressors off your back, you know? So, you know, and Kemp asked some good questions, you know. He tried to pull a lot out, and I didn't know what it was going to be. You know, I didn't really know that it was going to turn it came out great. You know, I really appreciate that. And I got a lot of good feedback. Actually, it was like a week or two later, I had some high school friends message me, and they said, "Hey, I love your movie." I'm like, "What movie?" And you know, then they said, "The one that you just did, you posted on Facebook," and I was like, "Oh." And then I was thinking, I was like, well, mine was the longest. You know, it was almost 2 hours. So I was like, I guess it was a movie. So, you know, but yeah, you know, if I could do it all again, I would. You know, to get the message out, to talk like this, you know, to come together and share ideas, make things better, get the word out. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm game for that.
You know, we didn't really know like what to expect either. Like I didn't. I had just met Ryan at the time. You know, and we had just shot the actual music video in Huntsville and in Atlanta. So like, you know, this was new and big for our relationship. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, to be honest, the fact that you all opened up to me, like, was big for me. Like, and me and Ryan talked about how cathartic it was for me, as like, you guys didn't know me from a can of paint. You know, and then the fact that we were able to have such intimate conversation and talk about the things that like we've all experienced was really heartfelt for me. So I appreciate you all for that. Who's next?
I guess I'll go next. The feedback that I got was all over the place, I guess. Like, I think somebody mentioned it earlier, people act like they didn't already know. And it was like, to me, and some of the things that I shared, looking back at it, I didn't even know what we were doing when you asked me to do it. Like Jesse said, I literally thought it was gonna be like, all right, you're gonna talk to me for 20 minutes and you're gonna take like 30 seconds out of, not even 30, I didn't even think it was gonna be 30 seconds of what I said. So I actually was supposed to be going to dinner with this man over here. Like, we're a half an hour into it and I'm sitting there getting texts from him. I'm like, I don't know, man. I didn't expect you to be here this long. I'm like, and then next thing you know, like, I was there for like an hour and a half. I had no plan of what to be saying or what you were gonna be asking me. So in hindsight, I'm like, man, I would have had some fantastic answers prepared if I would have known what was coming.
You know, I think there's a certain level of like ambiguity to it made it so much more authentic.
Right. So watching it back and then also hearing what people had to say back, because I did hear a lot of different things and I think I might have upset a couple people.
Good.
Yeah, good for sure.
And some of those people, like, I can still feel the vibes from, and some of them are close to me. So it is, it kind of feels like a freedom to tell some of those things, but I probably have 25 more stories that would make you be like, whoa. Like, I got home and I was like, man, I didn't even tell him about that. I was like, and then there's that. I'm like, and then like a couple months after that, I get the N-bomb dropped on me just out in the community. And I'm like, I could have used this story. And it got a little deeper than just a word being dropped on me.
Well, I got it spray painted on my car shortly after that. So
and we talked about that. And so
that was a $1,700 fix.
We have this conversation and we have this docuseries that comes out and we're talking about all these things. And some people act like, wow, I didn't even know. And then like 3 weeks later, it's like, it's still happening. It happened just now. Like, I still have to deal with this. So for me, it's not even about the feedback or what people think. It's like, you knew this was happening already. Here's your confirmation. Now, if you want to do something about it, and that's kind of one of the things I regret is that I didn't put white people on the spot the way that I now feel like I should have, because if something's really going to be different or if something's really going to change, all respect, I don't think that we're gonna do it because it's gonna take white people to do it because y'all, like, white people see all this happening, like, and nobody says anything. Like, if white people really cared, they say something. Like, if there are a lot of good white people here, a lot, and I didn't bring any of that up, so I kind of regret that too. But in the same breath, it's like, y'all know it's really happening. So if you really cared, when you saw it getting dropped on me, I wouldn't be the one that has to confront that dude. Y'all would be so mad about it that this wouldn't happen. So I feel like I missed out on that part, and that part probably would have made people even more mad. But that's the real truth. It's like, we're not really gonna change anything because people have been known that you or I don't like it and that you're not supposed to like say certain things, but it's still happening now. And I look around and it's like, no white people care to say something. I want to see 4 white people confront the dude that's saying that to me. I don't want to have to do something about that. Until that starts happening, I really don't think anything's going to change or matter because all the good white people I know, good white people, do something about it. Don't come to me and tell me you're a good white person and be like, but you didn't bring that up. Like, I'm a good white person. If you want to be a good white person, then make sure you confront the bad white people. And then maybe they won't feel so entitled to be acting like this so arrogantly in front of people. Like, I can get it dropped on me at the bar because he feels so comfortable.
There's no repercussion.
And the repercussions for me don't matter. Like, if y'all start making these people feel like outcasts, they will be outcasts. But as long as you keep including them, and if your friend's saying it, you know, I've had people tell me or call me and be like, yo, JR, I'm at this place and so dropped the N-bomb. And I'm like, so why ain't you say something? Why are you calling me? So until people start saying something to their own people for that, ain't nothing gonna change. So we can keep talking about it, but we gotta make white people uncomfortable. If you're a good white person, then show me you're a good white person. Show me. When it's getting dropped on me and I gotta be the one that's uncomfortable, show me that you're a good white person. Don't talk to me about it after you see a docuseries.
Period.
I think that's the stain of America, though. Like what we're talking about is that's the uniqueness of racism in America. And when I say that, it's just like, I think I talked about a little bit in the interview. If you take if you hang the Nazi flag in Germany, it's completely taboo. America will not admit that they have this issue. It's the stain of America. It's ingrained into almost every way of life that this system has been going about, and if it doesn't affect them, then they don't want to touch it. That's America, and that's what you're absolutely right. Like why would they change something that doesn't affect them? I think it's the systematic thing about it that it's like, this system is built to help me. There's nothing wrong with it, and that's how I totally agree with you. You know what I'm saying is, I just think that's how America, we're always ingrained in it.
I can add on that because I actually brought that up in my interview, and I talked about being in Germany. I've been to Germany 3 times, and you won't see anything, no SS, no Hitler. You know, we have statues here in our country honoring soldiers and generals that fought for slavery and wanted to keep it forever.
We have
and
colleges
then they
named
get
after them. James Madison
Absolutely.
University. All these universities
Yes,
that are
but-
named after dudes that were slave owners.
But here's
and we
the issue.
glorify them.
But here's the issue is that we've never been humbled by our own wars. They were humbled by that war. World War II was humbling to Germany, and that's why you won't see anything. They said, we can never do this again. And there's black people all over Germany, but they're Germans. You know, in America, we're black Americans and white Americans, and we've done our own cultural separation based on how people won't let go and they don't have any humility, and they need to be humbled. And we can do our part by speaking this stuff, but JR said it. If you don't look at yourself and say, I need to stand up and make sure I check my fellow citizen, because that's uncomfortable for me, and I don't want to have to call. I got a text message just last week from my daughter, and she's in tears at a bar, you know, crying because she can hear a dude saying it right across the bar, and she's like, Dad, what should I do? And I said, you don't do nothing. Don't you say a word. And then sure enough, I showed the text message to one of my other friends, and they're like, oh my goodness, I know that dude. And I said, yeah, well, he hasn't quit. So it's something that has to be brought to light. And we just need to speak our story all the time, all the time.
That's good.
I think that's what this whole docuseries was really about, was opening the conversation. And since we've all done our episodes and interviews, you know, I mean, we can count 4 or 5 instances where everything that we spoke about has happened in Olean. And you didn't mention it yet, but I know Selena, you know, somebody that I know just called Selena, you know, the N-word as well. And somebody who, you know, I like.
Yeah.
And it hurts, you know, it's sad to see that it still goes on. But that's the importance of this, is forcing this conversation and holding people accountable, you know, kind of to what JR said. And it's not just white people, it's whoever's spreading racism. Either way, you know, right is right and wrong is wrong. If somebody sees something doing wrong, why is it that we have to stand up for ourselves when you over there, when we have the conversation, you're telling me that, hey, that's wrong, but then it happens and there's silence.
So I forgot to mention that I actually confronted him after that. He walked into third base after the last Bonner game and saw me from across the room, and he kept his distance. And I said,
I'm
nope.
proud you didn't kill him.
Nope, come here.
Good for you.
Well, it took a little bit, and I told him I was gonna, if he had any objections to what I was about to say, I'm gonna drag you from one side of this bar to the other side of the bar, and nobody's gonna here is gonna stop me. So sit here and take your licking, but I'm gonna give it to you with my mouth. And I told him that from now on, he ever thinks about sending a text message like that in all caps, then he better think about who he's sending it to, and he better be ready for the repercussions. And he apologized profusely. I didn't mean to send that to her. I didn't mean to send that to her. And I said, again, you better remember who you're trying to send it to. And he thought it was a joke, but he sat there and he took his licks from me. And I told him, if you ever do it again, and if one of your friends does it, you better be the one that checks them, because guess how this feels right now? And he was like, I know, it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good. And I said, just imagine if I whipped your ass up and down this bar, I would go to jail, and then you'd be lumped up for a long time, and then you'd probably hate me for it. But now I'm gonna use this as a teaching moment and allow you to change your actions. So let me see you do it from now on. And I let him go.
Yeah, okay. Go ahead, Michelle.
So I also didn't know what I was getting into when I was asked to do this interview, and I didn't think I was going to be there for a couple hours. I was nervous because I didn't know if I was going to have the right answers, but Whakim asked great questions. I talked a lot about things I've dealt with growing up. For the longest time, I was the only Black teacher in the Olean City School District. So I talked a lot about that and the things I've gone through. And people, some of the feedback I got was positive. Others were like, weren't you afraid that there'd be repercussions if you said something? Nope. Why would I be? Like,
define repercussions. Like, what does that even mean?
I didn't even ask. I don't know what they meant by that, but definitely was not afraid of that. It needed to be said. People need to be made aware of how they treat people of color and the things that they do. They say there's no racism in this area, but how do they know? They don't deal with it every day. It's nothing they've ever dealt with. Like, so how can you say there's no racism? Or don't say to me, I'm not racist, but, like, what? Why? Don't even finish your sentence, because if you have to tell me you're not racist, but, then we got an issue. And I agree that, you know, the white people need to correct the things that are being said, because we do it. I know I'm considered the angry Black woman all the time, because I get very defensive and I'm always defending and protecting myself. So I come across as being angry. No, that's just my defense mechanism, because I have to be that way. I'm not gonna let somebody walk all over me. So I feel like there's a lot of that happens, and we just need more people to say, you know what, that was wrong. We shouldn't have to be the ones to correct, because, like, Jason, yeah, I would have beat his ass too. And first of all, why are you even saying that word in a text message? Why you shouldn't be doing it at all? Shouldn't even be coming out of your mouth. So I feel like the feedback that I received was all positive, other than me worrying about repercussions and people thinking it still doesn't happen in this area. But I don't know how to change that other than to keep telling our stories. And so.
Well, everybody touched on it. I definitely received a lot of feedback from my story. Many people said that they didn't know about some of the things I shared, which I'm a very private person, very private, and I don't say a lot of things. I hold a lot of things in, and I tend to get myself in trouble that way. This subject's tough for me. It's real tough. Like I said, if you're in this area, I feel if you're different, you're treated differently. That's how it is. You're not accepted. You're not wanted. You're not loved. And sometimes I'm really sad to say that I've lived here this long. It's hard. It's hard for me. And until you understand what I go through when I see and how I feel and on a day-to-day basis, you can't imagine things I've seen and things I've been through. And I continue to put a smile on my face and do the things I do. But, majority of the conversation was great, from people that watched my story. Do I feel like this area is going to change? No. I'm just being honest with you right now. I don't see it. If you're gay, you're out. If you're black, you're out. If you're not the normal person per se, that's how it is. You're not included. Inclusion's a big thing that we've all talked about in schools, jobs, and all kind of things. I don't see inclusion here. I don't see it at all. And it's very unfortunate because this area has many, many, many great people I've met. I can say they're truly are my friends. But there's many others that feel that have not supported me as they say they do. And that's unfortunate because, like I said, I feel like I've done a lot of good, but I feel like when you don't fit into the certain category and you do something wrong, they continue to take their foot, put it on your neck. That's what they do. And they talk about it. They continue to share that, but they can't share the light. They won't share the light at all. They share the darkness. And I just want everybody to think about that, for a minute. If somebody does something wrong to a child, talk about it. If somebody does something to themselves, why do we need to talk about that? Why? Why do we need to talk about it? There's no reason to have a conversation about it. But we need to be more about supporting each other, lifting each other up, and stop continuing kicking each other down. It's ridiculous. And I'm first to say this, and I said it in my interview. I was wrong in so many different ways in how I treated people of color when I first came here. But I was taught that. And that's a shame. I was taught that by the people that lived here, by saying that these things they told me to treat everybody of color. And I was wrong.
I think, Devine, what you're touching on also is that when people were like, oh, you can't be racist or you're black, but that's part of the system that's been ingrained in America. Like exactly what you're talking about. You've been taught to walk across the street or treat this person this way, or the hoodie is gonna look this type of way. Like, especially in your profession, you know what I mean? With your profession, like you have to basically profile your own people, that certain people that don't fit into that. That is part of that indoctrination of what America is. I call it the stain of America because America will not admit it. And white America won't admit it because it's not going to affect them. They're not going to change a system that doesn't affect them fully.
But we also too we also need to recognize this as well. When we have people of color in positions, lift them up, encourage them. Don't say, well, they're doing this because they're doing this. Support them, lift them up. Because if we ain't lifting up each other, who gonna do it for us? Nobody else. Because I tell you what, I was never lifted up. I don't feel like I was lifted up. You know, like there is so much in certain professions that I feel that people, they look at it in a negative light, and it's a burden to carry. It's a burden, okay? You know, like I'm emotional today because this is heavy, man. This is really heavy to me. It's a heavy load, and unless you walking in these 10.5s, you have no idea what the burden I've been carrying all these years. Nobody knows. You know, they think they know this little story about this, and X, Y, and Z. You don't know the whole story. You don't know where it started, where it began. Because like if you watch my docuseries, it started in the car in 2006. That's when it started. I didn't have these feelings when I lived in Rochester. Didn't have that. And that was one of the things I shared. Like I didn't have that feeling. I didn't understand I was black until that moment. Didn't understand that. And it's sad. It's really sad. Like it's sad, but it also it brought some, made me realize who I was. And there are times, and I'm just being honest and transparent because I think that's what we need to do being here. There are days that I hated myself. And I'm being dead serious right now. Did not like myself because of my job, because of what I've been told, what I have to face every single day. There are days I didn't even look in the mirror. And I'm being real. And it takes a lot for me to even be here right now. Like it's taken a lot. And I really hope and pray that everybody that is watching this or takes this in or that's physically here, they're taking something out of this and they understand how you treat people affects people. Words hurt. Actions hurt even worse. Support each other, lift each other up. And that's the thing that we need to start doing. Listen, observe, value, and embrace. That's love. Listen, observe, value, and embrace. Do that. We need to do that more because we ain't doing that here. I'm telling you that not in this area. I haven't seen it.
To kind of touch on what you said about like you didn't feel that until you came here. Everyone who knows me, I'm not a small man by any means. So I feel like regardless of the setting I'm in, when I walk into a room, people see me. There's a different way I feel like I'm seen here in Olean versus being in Atlanta, Florida, Buffalo, all the many places I've traveled to. And I definitely know exactly what you mean, and even sometimes behind the smiles, you can see it's almost tangible. You know what I mean? I'm sure everyone up here can attest to that.
Me and Ryan used to talk about that way back when we first. And I used to kind of tell him like, I don't even necessarily think he really fully grasped it until probably recently. Like I would say to him just like, they don't really like you. And I didn't just tell him like, hey, they don't like you because you're black. That's not what I was trying to tell him, but like I was, that was the underlying tone of it. Like they really don't like you. They don't want to see you succeed. As soon as you embrace everything that you are, they're gonna be like, oh, why are you changing? Or why are you this? Like that. But like even to what Devine is saying, also is you're human. Black men and black women are human. She's not an angry black woman. You're not an angry black man. You're not an angry black man. Like we're human. And racism also hurts too. And they take that humanity from us. And like if I can quote what James Baldwin, and he says, remember, like they don't let them take away your humanity. It doesn't, their violence doesn't speak to their superiority. It only speaks to their lack of humanity. So like our sense, like you feeling and you expressing your feelings is not going to make you less. It's going to make you more. Don't lose that. as you know, I mean, as black men and black women, like and all these things, like they dehumanize us in that when they just make us angry and they take that from us and our feelings. So like that's the thing that racism that is untold of, and like I try to even touch on, like when I just talk about like our sons, like our black sons, and growing up black, like hug your sons, let him express his feelings, let him be exactly who he is. He's human first. He is a child, and that's like one of the stories I talked about was like when you experience one of your teachers tell his daughter that she can't date my brother, and like you're a teacher. I'm a kid. You know how that affects somebody, how you look at your teachers? There's every person in this room remembers at least one teacher, two teachers, whether they were a good teacher or a bad teacher. They're your teachers. And so like I'm that changed. And then I have to look at that teacher interact with the coaches I love, the other teachers I love, the parents I like. And it's like, oh, so it's like, that's how all y'all think?
Yeah, it creates a domino effect.
Yeah.
You now have to question everyone.
Yes. And it's like, and I think what people in this, like, they forget about the blackness. That is a child trying to absorb that, trying to absorb that hatred or that dislike or that unfamiliar, that not being fit in. Like he's a child, and that's scarring for every person up here. Like, go ahead, Jared.
I had a middle school teacher tell me that she didn't consider black people.
Yeah.
In class, in front of everybody. And nobody said anything, and that's kind of what I'm like. So then I'm put on the spot, right? So like I'm 13, so the story that I shared in the docuseries about the group of white kids that beat me up with aluminum baseball bats. I watched that and I'm like, you know, people probably think that's really bad, but that was just like one story. Like I didn't share so many stories. Like this was a French teacher. I think I made a joke about a vocabulary term for people. So, I mean, was I probably being a smart ass? Yup. And she responded with, I don't consider black people people. And then I have to eat that. And so then everybody's looking at me and it's like, what's he gonna do? Why I gotta get the double whammy of getting put on the spot, and what am I gonna do? Like, what is somebody else gonna do? And I was 13, and that was after the baseball bat incident had happened.
Yeah.
So like I was going through constant things. I went to a party one time. I think I was in 8th grade, and I was with girls that were seniors, and they insisted that it would be okay. I already kind of knew it was not gonna be okay. And when I got to the party, there was literally a sign on the door that said, "No niggers allowed." Yep, that means you. And it said my last name under it. And I had to stand there with those people and be like, so now they're like, oh my God, JR, I feel so bad. And it's like, now I gotta be like, it's all right.
Did that stop him from going to the party?
I told them, I was like, y'all can go, because that's not gonna, nobody's gonna speak up. Like, so there's 12, 13-year-old me, I have to eat that, and I have to be the bigger person about it too, at an age where I'm not even really sure how to do that. So like I had mentioned in my docuseries before, like as a kid, I didn't even know I was black until white people started pointing it out all the time. Like I was literally just a kid. Like I didn't know I was black until you kept telling me I was black. So then now when some people are like, JR, you only identify with your black side. I'm like, isn't that what you wanted? Like you've been telling me this the whole time. And now that I identify with a side, or I'm particularly proud of one side more than the other, now it's a problem. But if y'all wanted it to really be a problem, you would have said something when that teacher told me she didn't consider black people people. Or you would have said something when I rolled up to that party and it said, no niggers allowed. And again, these are like a couple stories. I got a whole bunch if anybody wants to meet me after this and hear about them. Like, I forget about them because so many of them happen. And then I sit at my house and I watch things like this and I'm like, oh, I didn't even bring that up. Oh yeah, and then there's that.
Well, speaking of that, Jared, like when you just said like you're 12, 13, my cousin Bobby was talking about when we were, must have been his senior year, and we were playing Bradford. They canceled our third basketball game because there was so much racial tension back and forth with it. And
when we played, they were calling us niggers from the crowd.
And he said,
I had to play JV basketball while they were yelling nigger from the crowd.
Yeah, so Bobby says to me 2 years ago, he was in my living room and he was still mad at the AD at the time. I'm not, and he was like, his response, the AD, I mean, our athletic director at the time was to Bobby, was like, you need to learn how to deal with that. So he's 17. He has to learn to deal with it. But you're the adult, and you're in this place, and and then you're in like they're expected to deal with that or to be better with that. Like as an adult, like that's your job to as an administrator to handle those situations, and you want the child to handle it. Yeah. And again, he's 17. It doesn't make a difference if he's 17 and he looks like LeBron. He's still a child. It doesn't make a difference if Charles Perry was 6'9" and 15 years old and 230 pounds and could play basketball. He's a child that come from a at-risk background, and they treated him like a grown man. Like he should know, like he's a child. And that's where they try to take that humanity from us. And we're supposed to be grown. You have to deal with that. That's what racism does to us. It takes your humanity from you. It takes your emotions from you. It doesn't allow you to be that you think you have to be tough and you can't express your emotions and feel vulnerable. It's all bullshit.
One thing, the biggest commonality I think between every interview that we did, just from hearing all of your stories, was that none of us realized we were Black until we encountered racism. Because I don't think that, and this just goes to speak how true this is, because Devine's from Rochester, Vernon's from don't tell me. Yeah, there we go, DC. I'm from Buffalo. So we're from this area, but you're not. And yet that none of us knew we were Black until we experienced racism. Until someone put it in our face and said, here, this is who you are, or at least this is how the world sees you. You know what I mean? And for me, doing these interviews also, the catharsis for me was realizing, honestly, how much I love my Blackness. I said it in someone's interview that I feel like our Blackness is our superpower, because we go through something that no other race in America goes through. Yes, there's minority plight amongst all minorities in America, but no other minority gets treated like how we get treated in America, period. Fight me if you think I'm wrong. I don't care. And I think that commonality amongst all this group of strangers and some familiarities, none of us really understood that we were Black until that racism got put in our face. And we had to recognize that. Hold on. Ryan said in his interview, they were calling him a nigger, and he didn't even know why. JR said in his interview, they were calling him a nigger, and he didn't realize, he thought it was because he was, grew up at a disadvantage, not because he was Black. You know what I'm saying? That level of racism, which is taught, because when it's happened as a child, it's taught. That's not, children don't just wake up and have hatred in their hearts. They don't. That is ingrained and taught. So that to me speaks volumes to how true these, I don't even know, what is the word I'm looking for? It speaks to how true these statements are. The fact that we have to get taught that we're Black. I was raised in a household where we were told you love your skin, but I didn't know why I was taught to love my skin. You know what I mean?
Got another one, Whakim. Somebody who now is in this community and they have a prominent job, and it's a similar job to somebody else up on here. I'm not gonna air out everything, but there is somebody in our community right now that holds a very prominent job. And when I was 11 and I was playing in Little League All-Stars, I was playing another town, and there was a person on my team, his dad was filming the game from center field, and this was the early 90s, so he's got the big old camcorder, and there's a little girl working the scoreboard in center field. And when they announce my name and they're like, next up to bat is J.R. Kemp, you hear a light voice off to the side of the camera go, come on, so-and-so, and they say the person's name, and it's this person's brother. They go, come on, strike this nigger out. And the dude pans the camera over to this girl, and she's all of about 7 years old. And she has a scorecard in her hand. And she also, this family owned a business here before. Her brother is in a position and a job that if you were a Navy SEAL, they'd probably investigate you and find out that you had parts in this and wouldn't let you be this, but this person works in this job in our community, and his little sister said, come on, so-and-so, strike this nigger out. And she was 7. So where does that come from? Where does a 7-year-old girl learn to even have the audacity to say that? And when the guy panned the camera over to her, she held up the scorecard in front of her face, and the guy was like, shame on you. But I still have the tape. So if anybody also wants to see that tape, it's a VCR tape, and I happen to still have a VCR. So
hood.
literally, I can confront her or anybody else with the video evidence to this day that this girl was 7 years old, and her older brother is now in a job that is a position of power in this community, and you can't tell me. Well, I'll leave it at that.
I just wanted to say real quick, JR said I got 25 other stories that I could tell, and I think all of us could tell all of these stories. We could sit up here for days just sharing stories back and forth, and we have since this started, because people said, whoa, I didn't know that you had that same issue. I was cutting JR's hair a few weeks ago, and we started telling stories back and forth, and it was like, man, I call it let's see who had a shittier day contest, because it's like, whoa, that happened to you? Well, let me tell you what happened to me. Let me tell you what, and then we'd go back and forth. We could do this, and I try to relate this to 2 generations ago. My grandfather was in an all-black battalion in the Army. They were segregated, fighting for this country, and he was in an all-black battalion. I mean, that's only 2 generations ago. Let that sink in. We're not that far removed from real segregation. It hurts us to hear those stories that happened to our parents, to happen to our grandparents. Just think of how it happened to our greats. I did my African ancestry a while ago, and it was great to I went over to the Bahamas in March, and I sat with one of my friend's boyfriends, and he's from Ghana, and he's got royalty in his family in Ghana, and I got to tell him that I was part Ghanese because I did my heritage, and I found out where I was from in Africa, and he saw my interview, and he texted me, WhatsApp me, because he lives in France, and he was like, man, I'm crying right now. I'm crying for you right now. He's from Africa. He was crying for me. It just shows you how far we're not removed from it, and we have to live it every day, but we still have to put a smile on our face. I mean, every day I go into my job, and I'm proud of who I am. I'm proud to be a black entrepreneur in this town. I grew up here. I'll probably die here, but I travel all over the world, and I experience more racism here than I do anywhere else in the world. And it's because it's a small town that doesn't want to forget its roots. And what we need to do is we need to humble people so that they start to experience that and really say, oh yes, I know that there were black battalions in the Army. I know that people were segregated when they came up from the South, even if they were freed. Well, they were freed, but they were freed into other parts of slavery. They were freed into jobs that you could never get out of because you were indentured. There's more to it than what we sit here and talk about, that we have a story. That story is ingrained in these children, and it comes from parents, and those parents comes from those parents. I remember talking to my grandfather, who was in this segregator. He didn't like white people. He never said it out loud, but there was an undercurrent, and we knew it as a family, but it was because of his experience. It wasn't because he grew up and his parents taught him to dislike white people. He grew up and he was segregated, so therefore he knew who he was segregated by. So it's really powerful to hear our stories, but let's give credit to or let's give exposure to those stories that happened before us. And I think we can learn from this, but we also can learn from that.
Yeah, that's good, because we know the things that our ancestors went through was obviously surpass anything that any of us on this stage have faced. But we're also not going to pretend like America doesn't have a long way to go.
No, absolutely. And as we can all see, we have enough stories to sit here until probably tomorrow at this time. Unfortunately, we don't have all that much time, so I just kind of want to wrap it up with, everybody's thoughts on, where do we go from here? We've seen the docuseries. We've all done our interviews, watched everybody else's, and, this is all great and something that, will last forever, but what does this really matter if it ends here? And I think that's the most important part of this is, okay, this is great, we've started the conversation, but now what?
I'll start with that one. First, I would love to see more of this, more conversation, more of our culture brought to this city. One of the things that I mentioned when I first moved here was how a lot of our culture just isn't here. The smallest of things, like going to the store to get hair care products, to go get certain foods. It's not available here. I know we're tucked away in the Northeast, but they ship fish here from New York City and from the other ports. We can bring some of the other things here, some hair grease, Juneteenth, last year it was brought here, the gathering last year, or this year actually, brought by Ryan and the crew, and it was refreshing. We came up here and dude was playing reggae. I mean, my goodness, that we need more of that here. We need more. It brought back a lot of memories to be able to, I got an extensive playlist. I have reggae on my playlist, but we had someone here live. When was the last time that happened? Ever in Olean, you know what I mean? So we also had we were in Arizona at the time, but we had someone come here and play at the stadium, we need more diversity here. I would love to see this group, this panel, be able to help and bring some things here, and I think that would go a long way in educational wise for this area. Like you said, each one of us has a different story. We're all willing to share, and Devine gave a cryptic story there. I can say that much. So that's why this man is hurting, so.
Well, I just want to say, first of all, I'll go back to Devine's story. We need you. You're not alone. So I just know that you're not the only person that's up here hurting. We hurt for you, but we're here for you as well. It's not just we hurt for you, we're here for you. That's what this whole panel was about. Ryan grabbed I don't want to say the most influential people in his life, but he grabbed influential people in his life that he thought that could tell a good story. Even though we didn't know what was going on, this didn't start this way, but it was organic, and that was the beauty of it. And I think because we told our stories and we exposed them, we put them out there. They're on Facebook forever. So, those you might be happy that you didn't tell as many stories, JR. But now that it's exposed, we need to tell more of those stories to our black friends, our white friends, our Hispanic friends, our Chinese friends. Everyone needs to hear our stories, and tell them with humility. Tell them the real shit. No one up here is afraid to say that it was nigger that they called us. We didn't have to say, well, they said the N-word. No, they didn't. They didn't say the N-word. They used it raw. No protection, with the intent to hurt, and that does hurt. So those words do hurt. And I said in my story, I never lost a fight in my life, and I lost them all, because everyone that I fought for saying the word, for disrespecting my family, they all hated me worse afterwards. So guess what? Now I get to lick them with my words.
I think JR made probably the most outstanding statement. He's like, why is it we always have to defend ourselves? Why can't our friends defend us? We're the first ones. Somebody calls us a nigger, we're fighting. But you know what? It's not the words, it's the silence of our friends that hurt the worst. All of us have white friends. How many of them ever stood up for you when somebody else called you a nigger? Normally, we are the first ones to step up and want to fight or have to fight. very few of your friends stand up for you. If those people would stand up, a lot of this would go away, but they don't.
I agree with Vern. More culture. That's what I want to see from this. More of our culture, whether it's festivals, whether it's little activities, stores, everything. I would like to see our culture more. That's what I miss the most, like seeing Black culture. And I think the youth need that more than anything else. Just give them a sense of pride of what their culture is. So, Vern.
Yeah, I think it's, these conversations are great and they're powerful, and it lights the fire, but it's got to be action. There's got to be more festivals. There's got to be, things for the kids to do and see, more culture, more, whatever it may be, whether it be a panel, a festival, a basketball event, whatever the case may be. I think, the 9 or 10 of us here, whatever it is, the reason why we're all selected and why we're all up here is because we do have influence, we all have a voice, and we all have reach. And, one of us can do it, I can do it, Jesse can do it, Devine can do it. But if we're all doing it separately, nothing's ever gonna get done. But if we're able to come together and really push the narrative and push the envelope forward and try and bring this culture to around here and try and make real change, I think we can really do that. And, that's where I personally wanna see it go, is to continue to build. We recently, Whakim's stepdad is one of the founders and CEO of the Aaron Salter Foundation, who is the cop who died in the top shooting. And he has assisted us in creating a nonprofit foundation called Create the Culture. And the mission in that is to do exactly that, create a culture here that's non-existent. And I think it starts with everybody, sitting on the stage, everybody in this room, white or Black. And, I think if we all band together and really make it a focus, that we can really do something powerful.
Yeah, yeah. This has by far been like the most liberating experience I think of my life. And honestly, first and foremost, I want to give all glory and honor to God for allowing me to be the one to tell your stories, and to elevate your words with my ability to tell story. Man, it means a lot. It truly does. Again, just to reiterate that. But we are thankful for every single one of you. I mean, it takes guts to trust, a stranger and know that, like, yo, JR texted me so many times, like, bro, don't make me look bad. Oh my God, I kept telling him, like, yo, JR, if you don't leave me alone, I got you. No one else has lost their job. No one else looked bad on camera. Trust me, I got you. But the fact that JR had those feelings, like, to me, it only reassured me that we were doing something good because it was necessary, and there was a lot of hesitation, even on my part, with creating these, that it was just heavy. I'm gonna leave it there. It was heavy, and again, like, we are extremely thankful for all of you who watched. Thank you for all of you who are here. Thank you for everyone who supported. And most importantly, thank all of you who don't support and don't like what we're doing, because you're the reason why we're doing it. So we want to keep moving forward. Trust me, this is not it. This is not the end. There's a lot more in store. We are, again, I can't stress how grateful we are. And I think, like Ryan said, we create the culture, and it's starting at Olean, but this is not where we're ending. As long as there is blood pumping in my body and breath in my lungs, and I know Ryan feels the same way, this is just the beginning. So again, thank you all. And now that all the heaviness is out of the way, I need a drink.
Let's party.
Yeah, that's a lot.
it's nice to finally meet you. Can't wait to tell you about the things I've been through. 18 years, I was walking by myself. Ain't no fucking way that could be good for my health. Skeletons go deep. Been living in my closet. Fear of the unknown cause a nigga to be modest. I'm just being honest. It's hard to face the facts that I've been living all this time. I knowing what it mean to be black. Grew up, ain't have no father, just my mother. Her and Graham's the only ones at supper. So many fucking questions, things to discover. Why these white kids always questioning my color. Start to make me wonder, who the hell am I? Why they got me feeling like my brown skin is my demise? You can see it in my eyes, confusion run deep. Start to lose trust, can't tell a wolf from a sheep. Inside the tears leak, can't show it on the surface. Was just a little kid trying to understand his purpose. Tears turned to rage, on fear I turned the page. Smoked my first L, now I'm coping with the haze. Why the value of my life under appraise? Just cause my skin dark. Why the 5 o'clock news only show niggas in chalk? Why I can't just be myself? Always gotta play the part like, boy, you black, you ain't supposed to be smart. Nigga, dead black man, it's nice to finally meet you. Can't wait to tell you about the things I've been through. 18 years, I was walking by myself. Ain't no fucking way that could be good for my health. Skeletons go deep. Been living in my closet. Fear of the unknown cause a nigga to be modest. I'm just being honest. It's hard to face the facts that I've been living all this time. I knowing what it mean to be black.